Over the course of Yu-Gi-Oh! History, there have been so fucking many sets released, with tons of different types of community receptions. On one hand, you have sets like Flames of Destruction, the Phantom Darkness, and Raging Tempest that clearly made their mark right out of the gate and kept on giving through the years, consistently really contributing to the meta-relevant card pool. Now, on the other hand, you have some sets that make it look like the design team had given up completely. I'm talking about sets like Mystic Fighters when I say this. Sets with complete lack of value on release and hardly really getting better with the passage of time. Today, I wanted to start a series of retrospectives, really taking a look at some of the best and the worst sets over the course of Yu-Gi-Oh! History, and what impact these sets had on release, the most important cards that they brought to the table overall, and the long-term impact that they had on the game. Now, seeing as this is the first in this series of the retrospectives, I figured I would start this off with, in my opinion, a contender for the best set in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, being Maximum Crisis. Now, releasing on May 5th, 2017, the final set of the Arc the Era brought with it a boatload of absolutely insane cards for the metagame of that modern day. This set introduced the True Draco archetype to the TCG, a group of cards I'm absolutely sure you're familiar with, but for those who aren't, I'll give a small breakdown. True Draco is an archetype full of continuous spells and traps, along with monsters that use continuous spells and traps for tribute summons. The strategy functioned to turbo out the boss monster, being Masterpiece the True Draco Slaying King, a quick effect pop with a Cleafort Towers-like immunity. Now, honestly, the introduction of True Draco alone warrants this set to be quite notable, as not only did this deck go on to contend with Zodiac for the best deck spot, but eventually the core of True Draco combined with the Zodiac deck to form arguably the strongest deck of the 2017 period. Speaking of Zodiac, the deck was virtually tier 0 prior to the release of Maximum Crisis, and really it only got better from here on out, receiving support in the shape of Zodiac Chakanine, an extremely useful extender for the deck. It's really notable that prior to the Chakanine release, Zoo actually needed a Zoo plus an extender now to completely fusion sub combo, but with the release of Chakanine, the pure Zoo combo was brought back in full force, allowing a one-card fusion sub combo once again, as Chakanine provided the deck with the extender that was previously required to hard draw, reinforcing the strategy, ensuring it was levels above the other Zoo variants in circulation. Chakanine actually wasn't the only Maximum Crisis Zodiac support, but the rest of the cards released were more or less irrelevant to the deck's ongoing success, so it's not really necessary to discuss like Kong and Cataroost and the other things that came in the set for Zoo. Now obviously, at least in my opinion, one of the most important cards to release during the time, and arguably in general within Maximum Crisis, was Ash, Blossom, and Joyous Spring. With cards like Pot of Desires and That Grass Looks Greener running around unchecked at the release of this set, Ash Blossom really filled a powerful role for the metagame that hand traps before it like Effect Veiler simply just could not fill. The card very quickly established its necessity in the metagame, offering an incredible versatility that was practically unrivaled by other staple cards at the time, offering counterplay to Diagram, Rat, Barrage, Broad Bull, Desires, That Grass, Slumber, and so on, all within a single card. And Ash, to this day, is one of the most popular cards within the metagame, and without a doubt, it is one of the key reasons people point to this set as one of the strongest of all time. Now, in terms of importance upon release, I think the list pretty much ends there. The meta on release of Maximum Crisis was so Zodiac dominated that realistically a lot of the potential cards in this set had to wait a bit to really come into their own. But time did pass, and god damn did this set age like fine wine. Alright, so firstly, the pendulum support in this set was absolutely ridiculous, and went on to facilitate a lot of the core cards in multiple different pendulum strategies over the course of the rest of the game's history. Duelist Alliance, Zephyrath, and Darkworm are all crazy powerful pendulum enablers, and all played major parts in different chapters of meta-dominant pendulum history that occurred far past the release of Maximum Crisis. Maximum Crisis was a crazy strong final wave of Arc V support that truly did stand the test of time. Alright, so next up, I'm addressing this now, so those of you waiting for me to mention them can take a breath. So, Calamities and Diagram did release in this set, and even though they weren't immediately important outside of True Draco, they did do a fair amount of damage within the World's Dinosaur builds shortly after, and landed Lithosogem banned on the TCG ban list sometime later. I'm sure I don't really have to describe exactly the amount of damage that Calamities by himself has done to the TCG metagame, at least at this point. The card did take a fair bit to find a home, but every time he has really popped up in a playable strategy within a meta deck, people immediately called for his ban. And recently they did get their wish when he became a bit too accessible, more recently within the virtual world strategy. And truly, honestly, like, speaking from the heart here, good riddance. VFD was one of the most degenerate, disrespectful cards I've ever had the displeasure of playing against. Now, I don't know what it was with this set and degenerate turn skip cards, but Calamities isn't the only turn skip card that Maximum Crisis technically debuted. The TCG Worldwide debut of Utopic Zexal came in Maximum Crisis as well, and similar to Calamities, this card in the modern game eventually saw itself abused and accessible enough to warrant a ban. And similar to Calamities, good riddance, really. Now, there are a lot of engine and standalone cards that came from this set that independently did make a showing in the competitive scene far past release. Starting off, Spiral is obviously a notable archetype that really did get key support within the set, but didn't actually do anything until Helix came later on. But it's definitely still important to mention that stuff like Sleeper was debuted in this set. Guru, actually, on a similar note, got a bunch of super strong cards within this set, namely stuff like Final Battle and Fiendus, but the deck didn't actually have the true enabler yet, so it was another incomplete strategy on Maximum Crisis release that eventually did make good use of the cards it was given. Randomly, the Lyrilusk Engine was actually released in Maximum Crisis, a small little subset of Wing Beast extenders that saw a fair amount of fringe play earlier this year in combination with Tri-Brigade, but originally akin to a bunch of the cards in this set, truly wasn't enabled till far past the original release date. A personal favorite of mine that was released in this set, arguably the strongest card in the Buster Blader deck, being Prologue. Now, this is a card that enables the deck to see fringe TCG relevance nowadays, enabling crazy strong value plays in tandem with Whelp. Maximum Crisis support for Blader was definitely random, as Prologue was actually the only card for Blader in this set, I believe, but it did a ton for the strategy. And on a side note, I can't wait for this card to eventually see a release in Duel Links. Another one for the miscellaneous category, the Predaplant engine actually released in this set and has seen competitive play to this day. Generic fusion search, along with getting access to stuff like Cherubini or rank 3s, has been crazy and has been splashed on and off since its original debut. Another one for the miscellaneous list. Sorry I'm just slamming you guys with these, but there are actually so many important cards to discuss in this set. Set Rotation is yet another random free agent that popped up in Maximum Crisis. A field spell consistency card that has popped up in tons of top lists over time, even eventually finding itself on the limited list due to the consistency it held and the fringe ability to disable opponents' field spell usage with cards like Gateway to Chaos. Yet another crazy card in this set that was released as a free agent was Tornado Dragon, a rank 4 quick effect spell trap pop, and this card obviously is by no means as impactful as some of the other cards in this set, but the addition to the rank 4 pool definitely warrants its mention here. The card has seen on and off play as most of the best rank 4s have for years now. Honestly, going down the list, it felt like the number of cards relevant over the course of time was actually endless. Maximum Crisis had such an obscene pool of playables, offering not only crazy impact on release, but years later, its release continues to make significant waves in the competitive scene. Maximum Crisis set the bar for following sets so fucking high, looking back, setting up tons of future potential along with tons of modern playables for the period. The set was absolutely a fitting send-off for what was the wild Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V era, and in terms of competitive contribution, Maximum Crisis is without a doubt one of, if not the best set of all time, truly leaving a mark on Yu-Gi-Oh! History, warping the game forever in its wake. Now let's have a discussion. Do y'all think Maximum Crisis deserves the title of one of the greatest sets of all time? I would love to hear what you guys have to say on the topic, as I know people tend to scale sets on a ton of different criteria, and mine is absolutely only one of the many ways you could do it. And until next time, thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you later.